Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's Sunday, January the 14th, and I'm in the kitchen today. I'm making a pot of homemade chili, so I'm going to bring y'all along with me. This is not an instructional video. I don't measure anything. I'm just a southern girl and we just throw everything in there. But I did want to cook my chili while I was telling y'all some stories. I went ahead and browned a pound and a fourth of ground beef. And then I put it in this colander right here. And I'm going to rinse it with some hot water to get the grease off of it. And it was my son Jeremy who taught me how to do this. He made spaghetti sauce one time and it didn't have a bit of grease in it. And I said, Jeremy, how did you get all the grease off of that? And he told me, well, he put it in a colander and rinsed it with hot water. So I've done it ever since. So I just have it here in my little crock pot. I don't know the size of it. I guess, I don't know, fairly big. And then we're going to turn the oven on 450 degrees because I cook it in the oven. I started out at 450, but then I turn it down to 250 and just let it cook all day. So now we're going to add in the Trinity and the Pope. And y'all who are familiar with New Orleans cuisine will know what I'm talking about. I usually use green pepper, but for some reason I didn't have any today. So I have my celery and the red pepper. So this is part of the Trinity. Just going to add that to my ground beef. And of course, the rest of the Trinity is the onion. And I learned how to cut onion from Chef Gordon Ramsay, watching him on YouTube. Oops. Landed on the floor. I don't watch Gordon Ramsay much because I think he has a dirty mouth, but I did watch him long enough to learn how to cut up an onion. Y'all, I do not know how to do this. Anyway, you just cut it in half this way. And then you just make two slices down the middle of it, about close to the bottom, and then right through almost at the top. You just slice it. Then you just make some vertical slices like that. And then you just chop it. I don't know if y'all can see this, but that's how I do it. Anyway, when we lived in Covington, Louisiana, we bought a house, and it was the first house we had ever purchased. We had only been married, my husband John and I had only been married about 3 years. But anyway, we bought a house in Covington in a place called Slimmer Road, S-L-E-M-M-E-R, and it was named after a family that lived on that road. And Their last name was Slimmer. And when we bought it, we were warned by one of the realtors that, well, it's not a restricted area. Well, I didn't know what she was talking about. You know, and I was too ashamed to ask her. Anyway, here's the Pope, y'all. The garlic. I was ashamed to ask her what it meant. But we soon found out because not long after we bought that house, they started clearing land and building apartment complexes. They were duplex, so it was a 2-story apartments on both sides of our house. And then, you know, they built those and they started renting them out. But anyway, this girl and her husband, they had a little boy about 2 or 3 years old. Her husband managed the Wendy's there in Covington. And she didn't work. So one day she came up to the house and knocked on the door, and she said, can I borrow for a run? And she had just gotten braces in her mouth. And, you know, back in the 80s, or I guess it was, well, mid-70s, about 76. You know, back then the braces were those big old thick, heavy metal things. And she had rubber bands on them and everything. So when she came to the door and asked, you know, she was slobbering and everything, and saying, run. And I kept saying, I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying. And then she said it again, run. So I finally just told her, look, you're going to have to spell it. So she goes, you know what, O-N-I-O-N. So I went and got her an onion and loaned it to her. Anyway, from then on, we always called an onion an un. Even today, if you see it on my grocery list or my daughter's grocery list, UN, that means we want an un. And then the garlic, I'm going to tell y'all my nanny stories. I'm going to do a series on the nanny diaries. When I moved to New Jersey 15 years ago, I started working as a live-in housekeeper and nanny. Oh, I got some good stories to tell y'all. You just won't believe what goes on behind closed doors. Anyway, my second job was for a doctor. He was a pain medicine specialist in another town. And he had a little boy, 5 years old, and a daughter, 12 years old. So he needed a live-in nanny and a housekeeper. Well, he and his wife were divorced. She was a drug addict. And so he had custody of the children. Well, the ex-wife would come over all the time. And I'll tell y'all all those stories. You won't believe it. But anyway, we were in the kitchen one day, cutting up. You know, I was getting ready, making dinner. I think I was cooking an eggplant. So when I went to chop the garlic, which, you know, I just cut it in pretty big pieces, she told me that this nurse of his, she was over there one night, and this was when she was still married to the doctor, and this nurse of his, they were cooking. So she said that the nurse cut up the garlic the same way that the doctor did. So she knew that they were having an affair. So I was scared to death to cut up the garlic, afraid that it might be like his, and then I would be accused of having an affair with him. But anyway, I'm just browning my Trinity and the Pope right now. Just get it a little brown. It doesn't have to brown much because it's going to cook all day in the oven. And also when we lived in Covington, we had these neighbors across the street from us, and her name was Jenny, and she had remarried, and her husband's name, they called him Fuzzy. I don't know how he got that nickname. But they had these two dogs. And when we first met her, when she came over and they introduced themselves and everything, she told us that they had two dogs that were hairless and barkless. And I'm thinking, hairless and barkless dog? Well, then what do they do if they don't bark and they don't have any hair? Anyway, they were called Basenjis. And after we met the dogs and all, we fell in love with them. They were adorable dogs. But anyway, I was in the kitchen one afternoon, and it was pretty, it was probably in the fall, so the weather was a little bit cool. So we had the windows open. So Jenny and Fuzzy came over. And John, my husband at the time, he was in the backyard. He always did a lot of yard work and everything. So Fuzzy went into the backyard with him, and Jenny and I were in the kitchen. Well, John didn't know that Jenny had come over and that she was in the kitchen with me. So he comes and sticks his head up to the window there in the dining room and says, he called me baby, and he goes, "Hey baby, stupid's here." Oh my God, Jenny was standing right there. I could have died. Oh, my husband used to embarrass me to death. Well, I didn't know what to say. You know, she heard him call her husband stupid. So I just said, oh, he's talking about that little girl next door. But I know she knew. She had to know that John was calling her husband stupid. But that's just one thing that he did that embarrassed me, y'all. He did thousands of things. So I was just wondering, you know, when y'all left home and got married, and did your mama teach you how to cook? My mama didn't. She would not allow us in the kitchen with her at all. She used to say, you know, "You're aggravating me." She wouldn't say aggravating. She just would always say, "Get out of the kitchen, you aggravating me." So anyway, to the ground beef and the Trinity and the Pope, I'm going to add 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I just use the Hunt's Petite Dice and low sodium. So we're going to have 2 cans of the tomatoes. And I always get the juice, you know, everything that's in the can. I usually add the water to it and everything. Of course, I push the lid back down so nobody will cut their hand on the lids. And then I add 2 cans of red kidney beans. These are low sodium also. Now my daughter, she drains the juice out of the beans, but I don't. I just put it all in here. I usually add a little water, get all that juice out. And here's another can. These are all low sodium. Even though I add salt to it, I just figure at least I know what I'm adding. I don't have any extra in the beans. Ooh, I'm running out of room, y'all. So anyway, I'm just going to stir this up and try not to slush it out everywhere. Ooh. I mean, I had a can of Goya and a can of Bushes, so one can is really dark red. I need a bigger crock pot, y'all. Okay, to this I'm going to add, like I said, I don't measure anything, so this is not a how-to on how to make chili. But I use the Tony Chachere's. I buy this at Walmart. I'm just going to add some of that. This is a good old Louisiana seasoning. Let's see if it says what it has in it. Salt, red pepper, black pepper, chili powder, garlic, and then some other preservatives or something. So I add that, and then I add just a little bit of regular salt, not a lot, and some pepper. And then I'm going to add some, a little garlic powder. Not much because I put a lot of garlic in there. And then this is cumin. Like I said, I don't measure it. I just dump it in there and then I taste of it later. And then my chili powder. And I usually add in a packet of McCormick chili seasoning mix, but I forgot to buy that. So that won't be going in it today. And then I just add a couple of, dried bay leaves. It's hard to... stir it because I don't have any room. And now because I don't have room, I can't add in my chicken broth. So I'm going to put a tiny bit. So here it is, hon. So I'm just going to put my lid on it and then put it in this 450 degree oven. Just going to let it sit in that 450 degree oven for a couple of minutes. And then I'll come back and turn it down to 250. Anyway, I wanted to tell y'all a story about the rinsing the ground beef in hot water to get the grease off of it. My ex-husband was an alcoholic. So one day he made this spaghetti sauce for us. And I wasn't in the kitchen with him, so I didn't see what he was doing and everything. But he was doing like Jeremy had taught him to, put the meat in the colander and rinse it off. Well, when he went to pour it to drain the grease off of it, the meat fell into the dishwater with the soap in it and everything. Well, he didn't tell nobody. He just picked it up and put it back in the skillet and added the tomato paste and tomato sauce and everything and cooked the spaghetti to go with it. So we all sat down to eat that night, and we tasted the spaghetti sauce, and it tasted like soap. Well, we couldn't even eat it. I mean, it was horrible. So we put it in a container and took it back to Kroger's, and we went and saw the meat market manager, and we told him, there's something wrong with this ground beef that y'all sold us. We made spaghetti with it and everything, and it just tastes like soap. So, he apologized. And he said, I'm so sorry. He said, when we washed the machines, maybe we didn't rinse all the soap off of it or something. So we, got our money back and everything. Well, it wasn't until probably 10 years later that my ex-husband fessed up that when he went to drain that ground beef, that he dropped it in that soapy dishwater. So anyway, this video is getting way too long. Excuse me, y'all. But I'm going to go in there and turn that oven down to 250 before I forget it. And then I'm just going to go about my day and let my chili cook. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.